First of all, before we start off, I'm very conscious that I've got some much better CW operators in the room than me. I do know it, I did pass my Morse test, but I've been very rusty through not really carrying on with it for a number of years, dropping out the hobby, trying to pick it back up. But once learned, never forgotten really. So what I'm going to share is my experience of learning it, why I'm pretty sure you can do it as well. And this year is the year of CW in Bury Radio Society, amongst other things, because we've got a few people who've said, I want to do this, I want to become competent this year, get on the air with CW. So we're going to be organising some practice sessions, some different things, a CW fortnight later on in the year, which I'll tell you about as we get on. So let's try, see where we can get to. So there's an interesting picture. Am I in the way here? Can you all see? Yeah?
It's not you.
It's not me. It's definitely not me.
Is it Linda?
It's not Linda, right? Well, it might be Linda in younger years, I don't know, but CW, it's a really, really good skill, as we'll come on to. Two things you might notice about that picture. Well, three things actually. One, it's very old.
I was thinking it's World War time.
Probably before that. Secondly, it's a lady. That's something else. Now that's interesting because most people think when they think of CW, they think of war films and there's men in trenches or in bombers flying over Germany, tapping out Morse on their keys. What you don't think of is the person that they were talking to back at base would almost certainly have been female. There was an awful lot of female CW operators, and it peaked in World War II.
Do you know why?
Can we do
because all the
questions
guys
at the
want
end?
to fight the war, so they need the labour, but they
Exactly.
want to So they thought, that's why the women got involved in things like this, because all the men had gone to war and everything. So they needed the labour, didn't they?
Yeah.
I thought I saw that.
Yeah. Let's keep the questions to the end because we've got other stuff to do tonight after my talk, and otherwise we'll never get through it. Okay, so we're good. And the third thing you might notice, but you might not notice about that, is I can tell you that she's a good operator. How do I know that? No notepad. She's head copying. Yeah.
I couldn't do that. That's right.
Keith picked up on that straight away.
That's assuming she's not just a
Yeah.
You
So, see, just to give you a flavour. So why should we bother with CW? There's a few reasons just for you to think about. First of all, it's a really cool skill to have. And it is a skill. It sets you apart from other people in society because other people don't have that skill. You know, you go to some social gathering and you're like, oh, I like decorating or I like gardening. You'll meet a million people who do those same things. Or I collect cool ringtones on my phone. But you won't see many people who have the genuine skill of being able to do CW.
Okay.
And it's a really cool thing. You can put that on your CV and it will open doors for you. Set you apart from other people.
I know what she's doing. What does CW stand for?
It stands for continuous wave, so it's actually Morse code.
I know it's Morse code.
Yeah.
But I appreciate
Can we have carry wave?
CW, okay.
You can have that if you want. It's wrong, but you can have it. So it's a really cool skill. I mean, you put it on your CV. They like to have things that set you apart. And if you can put that on your CV and going into an interview as like, I can send and receive Morse at 15 words a minute. I guarantee they'll ask you questions about that. What do you use it for? How did you learn it? It sets you apart from the crew. If you're on the dating scene, I bet you'd really impress the ladies or the guys by being able to say, you know what? Would you like to know what your name is in Morse?
Yes.
You know, it'll open doors for you. Yeah, there's so many arenas of life where that will actually set you apart from the crowd if you know CW. Multiple uses, all kinds of things. Once you know how to send and receive, you can do it on anything. You can do Morse on a car horn. You can do it with flashing lights. You can do it with, anything that makes a noise. It's recorded. Prisoners of war in the past, used to communicate with each other in other cells in the building by doing Morse on the pipes, on the radiator pipes. And there's recommended, you can find out more than one account of people who've been stranded in the wilderness, who've used their knowledge of Morse with a bit of broken glass and the sun to signal for help and get rescued. It's really, really versatile and it'll help you in lots of different arenas.
Will you use it in strange ways, Bill?
Yeah, probably. Morse gets through when every other mode fails. You can barely hear the signal in the background, and yet you can still read the Morse and you can make a contact where other things may not work. Yes, I know we've got FT8 nowadays, but it's on a par with that. It's easily as good, probably better, I would say, than FT8. It's the ultimate communications method. If you're stuck with high noise levels, as most of us are, small gardens, inefficient aerials, low power, because the neighbours are complaining or whatever, you can use Morse and you can get through and you can have loads of contacts. You want to work some really juicy DX? Keith will tell you, learn Morse. You can get on with all sorts of things. Works in any language. You might say, how come? Well, that's because usually your basic Morse contact follows a particular set pattern. You know, there's certain things that will be exchanged, you can learn it, and people who don't know English actually understand those abbreviations, and you can communicate with somebody who doesn't speak a word of English, and you can exchange the vital information for a contact and work people from other nations and them you. So it's literally universal, it dissolves barriers. It's great for equality. You saw the picture of the lady before. You know, some people, like females, don't like to go on the bands sometimes because you get a pile up, because everybody wants to work you because they hear a girl's voice. Yeah? If you're on Morse, they don't know you're a girl. You're just an operator at the other end. You're on a level playing field with everybody else. You can be in a wheelchair. Nobody knows. Doesn't matter. It levels out the entire thing. Those who are mic shy don't like to go on the mic. Don't like to come on the Sunday night net because they never go on the mic. You're a Morse key. It's kind of like being behind a keyboard. There's an isolation there. You know, even the mic shy can get on and can work on CW. It's great. Opens up a whole new world for you as well. All sorts of little things you'll find out. Those of you, anybody like classical music? Yeah? You heard the theme to Inspector Morse? Yeah? You actually hear that come on the radio and you go, that is actually M-O-R-S-E in Morse, woven into the music. You hear these things and you can actually read it and you go, wow, I never realised that. Or you can watch the old film of the Dam Busters. Yeah, the bits at the end where they're in the control room listening to the bombers, sending them the signals back. You can read the Morse on the film. Impress other people who are sat with you. So there's a whole new world. You can listen on the shortwave bands and suddenly you can understand what all these different transmissions are. Read these things coming from aircraft and all sorts of places. Want to add something, Keith?
If I may.
You can.
In relationship to this radio club, I grew up some years with one of the founders of this radio club, Jerry Openshaw, G2BTO. And the reason for mentioning partly what you described, he worked for the, I think it was the post office. He worked as an engineer, which used Morse code. He was Morse code. And when the call came, he was seconded to Bletchley Park. I've got a whole script of him somewhere. Amongst it, I'm not sure exactly who the person, but the Bury Radio Club used to do field days in CW prior to Lawrence and my time. They went to Holcombe Hill.
Holcombe Hill, yeah.
Which has got a number of layers internally. And just as a sideline, they were operating CW, calling CQ, but the noise from the generator was so bad, it drowned everything down. So they'd call CQ, switch the generator onto battery to listen. So they were running up and down the stairs. But the point I'm making is that it did produce people, and his name is in Bletchley Park. If you ever have a tour.
It's a secret listener.
Well, one of these days, by hook or by crook, we are going to organise a radio club expedition to Bletchley Park.
It's just a bit of a sideline.
And so we'll go and find that. when we do. That'll be interesting. We'll pay
There's
homage.
another person there as well.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and the last one is once you learn it, it literally stays with you for a lifetime. It's like riding a bike. You can become very rusty, like I have, and you have to brush your skills back up again, but you never forget it. It just sticks in your brain. Anybody can do it. You can do it. So here's some excuses. It's too hard. It is not too hard. It'll take me too long and it's too much effort. No, it won't actually. You'd be surprised. It doesn't depend on ability. I've heard people say, I just can't do it. Yeah, I bet you can. It might take you a little longer than other people, but I bet you can. There's nobody who can't do it. Even young little kids can learn CW and become proficient. Pensioners can do it. As long as you can actually hear. And I guess even if you can't hear, there are people who are profoundly deaf, who have little things, you put your finger on it and it buzzes. You can read CW like that without a sense of hearing at all. It doesn't require costly equipment. You don't have to spend thousands of pounds on stuff to do this. Just a simple Morse key will do. You can pick one of them up really easily. In fact, I've still got some free ones in Linda's box, if anybody desperately needs one and can't afford to buy one. You can practice it at home, you can practice it wherever you like, you can practice it whenever you like. You know, it's so variable, it's just something you can actually do and you can pick up and work with. So there really are no barriers. Why it's doable? Okay, let's get into some of the basics here. You only really need to learn the 26 letters of the alphabet, 10 numbers, 0 to 9, and I'd say to use it on the amateur bands, 3 punctuation marks. That's pretty much it. There are other characters, there are other things you can learn, but with that, you could talk to anybody all over the world. So if you learnt 5 characters a week, you could have the entire code down in just 8 weeks. Only 8 weeks. But in practice, you actually need to learn less than that, and it will happen faster than that. How do I know this? How can I tell you? Well, for a start, does anybody know what SOS is in Morse code?
Save ourselves.
Yeah, virtually everybody knows that. Even people who have no interest in radio whatsoever, if you ask somebody down the local pub, I bet somebody can tell you. So the vast majority of the population already know the letters S and O in Morse. So you don't have to learn 26, you have to learn 24. It's already going down. The letter E in Morse code is just one single dit. Okay? 26, 25, 24, 23, we're already on 23. If you take the easy ones like E, I, yeah, the basic ones, S and H, we're already down almost to below 20 letters that you actually need to learn. How many know V for Vendetta, Beethoven's Fifth? Da 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 da. Okay, so you already know the letter V. You've learned that one as well. Look how the number of things you've got to learn is actually falling away as we just begin to discuss
I've got
this.
another one for you, and it's the king. La-di-da.
Yeah. There are mnemonics and things like that to help you to remember the rhythm of these characters. So you look at that on paper, you go, oh, that's a lot of work, I can't be bothered. But actually, it falls out to be an awful lot simpler than you think it's going to be to learn these characters. The numbers, my goodness, the numbers. When you look at the numbers written down, the pattern repeats. Yeah? Starts with dashes, starts with the dots rather, and then it goes to the dashes for the higher numbers. And so it's logical. So you can learn them really easily. So it will take you an awful lot less time than that.
I think you're right.
Here's something else to whet your appetite. CW uses simple known abbreviations, and a simple CW QSO follows a known formula. So very rarely will you actually need to be able to read and decode plain language Morse. Yeah? You really don't. At that point, it's a good point to have a rant and make a point here, because there's a lot of people who say FT8 is killing amateur radio because it's structured QSOs with minimal information that follows a set pattern, and you only exchange these things, and it's digital. CW operators have been doing exactly the same thing for donkey's years. Simple QSOs that follow a set pattern, that exchange in an original digital mode. So at the end,
Is it packet?
No.
Oh, packet.
but it's kind of packet FT8. So you really won't need to be able to do a lot of complex stuff. Because it's formulaic, you probably won't even need to be actually copy and decode 50% of what you hear, because you know what's coming next, you know the structure. When somebody calls you, you get your call sign, and then you get DE, which is from, and then you know the basic structure of a call sign, so you know when to expect a number, when to expect a letter, you know what it's going to look like in general, so you're already primed in your mind for that shape that you're looking for. When somebody sends to you RST, you know that what's coming next is going to be 3 numbers, usually 599, which is what everybody gives to everybody as a report. So you understand what's going to come, so you don't even have to decode those. You just hear it and you go, oh yeah, my report's coming next, and it's going to be 3 numbers, and you're ready. So it's actually simpler than what you think. The old Morse test, the post office Morse test, they used to send you plain language, but it's actually easier than that, because on the bands you don't need to be able to do that most of the time. Unless, of course, somebody wants to send you a long word like coronavirus. You'll actually have to copy that, but that's just the way of things. Something else. Why this is doable? Well, to be honest, I've thought about this a lot, and to actually learn CW is actually the wrong way of putting it. Because you don't actually have to learn anything. When you say learn, it implies like a lot of study, a lot of hard work, and the possibility of failure if you're not good enough. But to be honest, you don't need to learn anything. You've already got the abilities and the skills baked into you to actually do this. Everybody does. You were born with it. Let me tell you what I mean. Because all you do when you're learning Morse is you're training the basic reptile pattern recognition bits of your brain just on a new set of characters. It's the same skills that were in you that they brought out in primary school when they taught you the alphabet with ABCs. All you're doing is swapping one alphabet for another. It's dead simple. Everybody can do this. Once you've actually built those connections in your mind through practice, recognizing the characters in CW is instant, it's effortless. You just hear it and there it is, it pops into your mind, you know what it is. You can recognize it. Really good operators go beyond that. They recognize the pattern of entire words. They don't need to decode it letter by letter. They just hear it come in and they go, that's this word, and they write it down. Or just see it in the mind. You know, really good people that don't even use a notepad. Sorry, I'm a notepad and pencil guy. I can't buffer enough in my head. My head's full of junkied up as it is. But really, really good operators just sit there and listen to it, and they just understand the text. They know what's coming. So the way you do it, the way I was taught to do it, and the way I've read in many books, is all you're basically doing is you connecting the sound of the character, the rhythm, or the pattern of it, the way it sounds, you know, the pattern of dots and dashes, dits and dars, the way it rolls out of the speaker, the sound of it. Your practice is to associate that with the letter or the character that matches with it. And once you've got your brain to do that, you hear the sound, you see the letter. It's immediate, it's instant, there's no work in it. You're just training yourself to do that. And it sounds impossible, but it's not. I mean, you learn to ride a bike. You can do that without falling off. Somebody says to you A, you know what an A is. Somebody says F, you know what an F is. Your brain does it instantly without any work. It's the same once you've trained yourself to do this. It just becomes automatic. And that's why you never lose it. So there's two, I split learning CW into 2 parts really. First is learning all the characters. So how do you do this? How do you make this association between the sound or the pattern and the letter? Well, the way I learnt it, I learnt CW from a guy called Vaughan Brindley, G3DYZ, who is long silent key. When he taught me CW, he was a doddery old guy with double hearing aids, and he couldn't read anything without a big magnifying glass. He was like Sherlock Holmes. But he found out that I was just about to take the RAE, to take the exam, and he said, when you get your pass for your RAE, he said, don't get your licence, don't get a G8. He said, I'll teach you CW, you can pass the Morse test, then you can get your G4 straight away. So I said, oh, go on then, we'll do it. And what we used to do is as follows. And as I describe this, you'll realise that these days, that would be described as an absolute screaming nightmare from a safeguarding point of view. But there was I, a young teenage lad, used to turn up to Vaughan's house. I used to go to his house once a week. He used to go into the front room. He used to close all the curtains, switch the light off, and then he'd get out his old slide projector. And he'd meticulously got pieces of the acetate, and he'd written on each one the letter of the alphabet or whatever it was, and the Morse at the bottom. And he used to put these up onto the living room wall. And as he put the letter up onto the wall, he would send it with his key. So I would hear A, I would see A. And gradually, as he taught me the characters, he'd teach me in groups of 5, and then he used to mix them up. And then he used to say, right, we'll do that for a bit, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then he'd turn that off and he'd say, right, I'm going to send you some now, write them down. And I'd listen to them and I'd write them down and I'd get them, and then we'd do some different things. And through that method, seeing the character, hearing the sound, it made the connection. And gradually I learnt more and more of them. And after we'd done that, what used to happen then was we'd open the curtains, turn the lights back on, and his wife used to make us a nice big mug of tea, and every single week she'd have baked a different kind of cake. It was wonderful. And that's how I learnt CW, and I did it in about 2 months flat, and it really worked. Now, you could do that in a small group. You could do that if you can find a mentor who's prepared to work with you. These days, you've got an advantage. You don't need a slide projector. You can get computer software to do that. Send you the Morse, show you the letter. So you could learn them on your own like that. There's apps you can get on your phone that will do the same thing. But that's the key thing you're looking for, is to connect the letter, the symbol, with the CW sound. It's the sound. You want to hear the sound, see the letter in your mind. And you're just forming that connection through repetition and practice. And that's literally all you do. There's online tuition for it. Amongst others, there's a Long Island CW Club, but there are many others that do this as well. But they're like international, they're based over in the States, and they will actually do courses every so often. They do a course like over Zoom or something similar to that, where you can go online and they'll take you through a certain set of weeks. You know, we have a mentor who will do it, and they'll take you through and teach you the code and do that. There's things on YouTube I've found that do similar, but you can evaluate them yourself. Think of what I've told you. That's what you're looking for, something that will give you that connection. Short, regular practice sessions, little and often, is the best way. If you can do something once a week, it'll work. If you can do a little bit less, twice a week, you'll go even faster. What won't work is doing an hour once a month. It's too long between the gaps. Your brain needs to soak this in. So little and often is definitely best. Code talking is another brilliant way of doing it. Once you start learning the characters and the alphabets, wherever you go, whatever you do, start thinking CW in your head. So while I was doing it, I was learning. I used to walk down the street, and every car registration number I saw, I was like, did, and I was just speaking it to myself in my head, not out loud, because people would think I was mental. But every car number plate, I'd see a sign that said Rochdale, and immediately I was running through the letters, in my head, you know, spelling it out to myself what it was. Go to the supermarket, you see soup, whatever it is, anywhere you go, signs on buildings, anything, just Morse. And you'll find yourself learning as you go if you start doing that. Yeah? Beer mats, Coke, main TV. The world is full of characters that you can convert into Morse in your own head and learn it, and you'll be surprised how fast it sticks. Some people say do not practice sending until you've learnt the whole alphabet. I think that's rubbish, and I've read several books that think it's rubbish as well, but people vehemently disagree on this point. Keith disagrees. So,
Another time I'll give
Yeah.
you a clear explanation to it.
yeah. But for me, it helped me because I was not only hearing the Morse, I was sending the Morse to myself, hearing my own Morse and linking it to the letter that I was seeing in my mind. So it helped me. Other people say don't do it. You can make your own mind up. But what I would say is, if you are going to do that, use a straight key. Don't use a bug or something, because you want to actually sense the rhythm of what you're sending. It's the rhythm, it's the pattern. Yeah, and if you're sending it on a straight key, you're sensing the rhythm in your hand, you're hearing the rhythm of the character. So it's all about learning that pattern. Don't be discouraged if you plateau. That's normal. It happens when anybody learns anything. Anybody here's ever tried to learn a musical instrument, you know it's true. You start practicing, you have a breakthrough, you think, I'm really, really getting good at this. And then suddenly, you can't get any further. You can't get any better. And in fact, you even start getting worse. And so you think, what's wrong with me? I just really can't do it. You can. It's a natural part of learning. Best thing to do when that starts happening is stop, take a 24-hour to 36-hour break, don't even think about CW, then come back to it. And you'll probably find out when you come back to it, you just go boom, you'll break straight through that ceiling and you go to the next level. It's a natural thing that happens to us, so don't get discouraged if you plateau. Once you know all the characters and you've learnt them all, you've got them connected in your head, you want to practice. This is where you really want to find a mentor or somebody, either in the flesh, at an arranged session, regular, or on the air. You can do it. You can use slow Morse transmissions, listen on the HF bands, find somebody sending something slowly. The RSGB do slow Morse. You can find slow Morse on the internet. Your machines will send you slow Morse in character groups if you've got one of those. To build up your speed, what you've got to do is push yourself beyond the point where you can read it all. Challenge yourself a little bit. If you drop in the occasional character and you're struggling to keep up, then you're learning at the right speed. Try and do that. Struggle with it. Try and improve. And then after a little bit of doing that, turn it back down to the speed that you were at, and you'll go, this is so easy, because you've gone faster and you've stretched yourself. And as you do that, you'll actually learn to go faster. Here's a little tip. When you're copying, if you miss a character, you've got to learn to let it go. Because you'll be listening to CW, you'll get the first character, you get the second, you're writing them down, and then some thought or distraction will pop into your head, or something will happen, and suddenly the next one, the next two, maybe the next three, you'll go, I didn't get that, I don't know what it was. You've got to learn to just let that go. Don't dwell on it. Don't try and figure out, don't go, why did I fail? Just make it part of your process that you just go, oh, forget it. Just leave a blank on my paper, carry on with the next character. Yeah, just let it go. And what you probably find is at the end, when you read back what you've put, it's obvious what those three letters were, and you just fill them in. Or sometimes your brain will just fill it in for you. You'll go, I don't know how I did that, but I know what it was now. It's because it's happening behind the scenes in the grey matter. So yeah, you have to do that. When I did my actual Morse test, I did that. I got like 2/3 of the way through the plain language section that the guy was sending to me. And then I stupidly allowed myself the thought that I'm doing really well here. I'm going to pass. Damn, I've just missed 3 characters by thinking that. So I was like, writing really quick. And you're allowed to have a certain number of errors, but you can correct them. It's no uncorrected errors, I think was the rule. So as long as I could fill those 3 characters in at the end, which I did, it was fine. And in fact, the guy actually stopped before he'd finished the paragraph. He said, oh, you're good enough. Because he saw what I did and he knew that I was okay. So yeah, just learn to let it go. Don't dwell on it. Let it pass. Carry on. You'll fill it in later. Start recognizing common words as single entities. So like I said, when you see RST, you know what's coming next. It's your report. The is another one. THE. It's so easy. Once you start learning, you're hearing plain language, you'll hear that many times. You'll go, all right, I know what it is. Then it'll surprise you because it'll actually be THAT. But then you'll back up and you'll change it. But you start learning these groups, you hear whole words and you just recognise them instantly. That's a sign that you're doing really well. And other things, you know, like the usual stuff, DE, from, you know it's going to be a station name next. The procedural sort of things that they use on a contact, you'll learn them, recognise them. Know about K at the end and KN, you know, that you hand over invitation to transmit and things like that. You learn them, it's easy, and you're going to hear them a lot, so you're going to recognise them easily because you're going to use them a lot. And become familiar, as I said, with the abbreviations that they use. The Q code, they're really useful, and the way a QSO is structured. You just practice that a little bit, you'll find out there's regular things, you're going to hear it loads and loads and loads of times, this particular grouping of characters or these particular phrases. So you just lock them in your brain, and when you hear them, I know what that is. Easy. So, and then once you've learned it, use it. Get on the air. As I said, CW fortnight. The plan is later on in the year, subject to how well we can organise whoever wants to do some practice and things like that amongst club members. We're going to do CW fortnight. So for a 2-week period, the idea, we're not fleshed it out completely yet, but the idea is that it's amongst club members. So we encourage you to have a CW contact with another member of the club. You can schedule it, you can plan it in advance, you can set it up, that's not a problem. And the more different members of the club that you can work, the more points you'll get. And at the end we'll do a league table and see who's managed to get the most CW in. It's just a way of getting you on, using it in a safe and friendly environment. You don't have to talk to some maniac on 20 metres who's going to send too fast. You can talk to somebody else in the club who's going to treat you in a friendly manner, who's not going to send too fast, and is going to be understanding if you mess up. So it's just a way of practicing. So we'll do that. We'll issue a grand prize. Get on the air. Try it. The speed that you send at is usually the speed that people will come back to you at. And if they're an idiot and they want to send it back at you at 80 words a minute, then you're not going to work them, are you? You know, but most people will come on, they'll hear a slow CQ and they'll go, that's a beginner, and they'll answer you at the same speed you're sending. And if they do go too fast, if you get carried away, remember QRS, please slow down. You can always send them that. The RSGB do a Morse competency certificate. If you go to the Lincoln Hamfest this next year, or maybe even at NASA, I don't know if they're going to turn up there and do it, you can actually sit down in a little booth with them, do some CW back and forth, and they'll give you a certificate. It's not as difficult as the old post office Morse test. I think it's only, is it 10 words a minute they do or something?
Not to do
12.
12?
12 words.
Yeah, the old
minimum
post
used to
office
be-
Morse test was 12.
The minimum used to be 12 words, but back in the day, I remember because I was there, what they do was you could do a 6-word written Morse test for like novice, but you didn't get much for it, it was a joke.
Yeah.
You got 6 words a minute for the novice, and 12, the minimum of 12 words a minute for your G4 and below.
Yeah.
But it was a joke because you could get a novice system and just didn't give you anything for it. It was rather like back in the 90s, you know, back in the day, and they did the same with the Class B.
Yeah.
You do a 45 question paper or a 245, which, to be honest, the 45 question at the time was a joke. Might as well take the 2 because it was a joke because you just didn't get anything.
Yeah.
But that's the system they had at one point until about 2006, and they changed the rules again. You know.
As an aside, does anybody know why they originally insisted on CW to give you a Class A license?
ITU requirement.
Yeah, but why?
The story was that shipping could tell you to shut up.
Exactly. Yeah, they wanted all amateurs to be proficient in CW, so that especially if you were on a shared band or some ship needed to do something and you were in the way, they could come on and you could read the Morse they were sending to you that said, oi, put a sock in it, I need to use this frequency. So that's why they insisted on everybody being able to do it to get on the HF bands, that's why. Nowadays doesn't really apply because most ships use SAC things and everything, and that's why they dropped the Morse requirement. But it's still brilliant, still worth using. We can even do the post office Morse test right here. We'll set one up for you if you want to do it. It will generate you a false certificate that you can have. I've still got mine somewhere, so I can scan it, we can Photoshop it, take my name off and put yours in, and you can have it. It's worthless, but it'd be a good bragging point. So, you can do it. I hope I've convinced you that you can. I hope I've whetted your appetite to try, and I hope I've kind of whetted your appetite that it's not as difficult as you probably thought it was going to be when you walked in here today. So the thing is, this is your club. If you want to do it, you want to do some practice, you want to make up a small group, you want one-on-one sessions, you want to try and do something on the air, you know, let us know how we can help you. We've got people here who are proficient in CW, quite a number. I'm rusty, but I can do it. I can still work with you and help you. Keith is on almost every day on CW, you know. Alan, Steve, we've got people here who can do it, who can help you work with you. So, over to you, or should I say, da-di-da, invitation to transmit.
In that Kill November.
What?
Kill November.
KN is
Invitation to reply is Kill November. Well, that's dart with a dart.
no,
I'm swearing.
yeah, Kilo November, KN.
Invitation to reply.
Right. So if you were calling CQ, you'd send K at the end, which is invitation to transmit. Anybody, feel free to come back to me. If you send KN, then that's invitation to transmit for the named station, the one I'm already in communication with. Everybody else, please don't interrupt because I'm talking to this other person. So that's the difference between K and KN.
Does QRS? I've never read QRS before. Is it like in Morse for like speed, slow down?
Slower. Yeah, please send slower, QRS. And if you do QRS question mark, that's would you like me to send slower? If you put a question mark symbol at the end of any of the Q things, it turns it into a question.
Can you send the question mark in Morse?
Yes. Did-it-da-da, did it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Not as rusty as you think you are.
What?
You're not as rusty as you think you are.
No. But I am rusty. So yeah, that's why I mentioned that there's just a handful of punctuation characters you need to learn. Question mark is definitely one of them, because you need it to be able to use a Q code fully. Yeah, so QSY, change frequency. QSY question mark, would you like to change frequency? That's how you use it. The other one you definitely need to learn is the slash. Because if somebody's portable or a slash comes in a call sign, you need to know what that is. Yeah, I can't remember slash, but yeah. Da-di-di-da-di. So there you go, that's another one. Full stop, comma, quotes, nah, never use them, never use them. Just those two mainly. And the error thing, which is just like, just send a load of dicks and start again because you messed up.
I'm good with that one.
Yeah, I'm good with that one too.
You got practice for it.
Yeah. So, anyway, there you go.
Thank you, Alan.
Who fancies doing some CW then? Yeah, we got a few people up, you see.
Come on, Jess.
Hey, even I'm tempted. Even I'm tempted.
You can come in and we'll teach you as well.